The Gillard government has moved to take some of the sting out of the backlash from farmers in the Murray-Darling Basin over the latest proposals for water reform by appointing a parliamentary committee to focus on the human impact of the final plan. The Murray-Darling Basin Authority has released a preliminary proposal recommending reductions in water allocations of between 27 and 37%. The politics of water reform have always been tricky, and the dividing line between farmers and environmentalists has never been greater, in this region at least. In acknowledging the urgent need for action, Julia Gillard now has to steer these reforms through a parliament where she'll be relying for support, on the one hand, from Melbourne Greens MP Adam Bant, and on the other, New England independent and farmer Tony Windsor. Tony Windsor was appointed today to chair the parliamentary committee, and I spoke with him from Tamworth late today. But first, let me give you a flavour of the emotions running through the basin communities, with scenes from today's briefing by the authority at the southwestern New South Wales town of Griffith.
They have made it very clear.
Tony Windsor, you're aware of the anger coming from farmers in the basin, slogans like "This is war, fight for your land, no water, no food." Do you sympathise with those sentiments?
Oh, obviously, people are very concerned about what's happening. I think there's been a period of time where most people have been aware that there were going to be some changes proposed. I think the magnitude of the changes has actually frightened people, and I think we've got to get to a position where we actually do calm down on this and look at it objectively. I think there's a way through this, and but it will need to be done valley by valley and even town by town, because the impacts of change will be quite different on a whole range of communities.
You said this morning that the final Murray-Darling Basin plan probably won't see the light of day during this term of Parliament. Now, theoretically, that's 3 years. Is that a reflection of the kind of priority you place on it, or simply that it will continue to get bogged down in the politics?
Well, I think the point I was making was that the political process will kick in at some stage in this, particularly if the people in the valley don't become more objective about trying to assess what can and can't be done, and the process doesn't deal more effectively with the socio-economic arrangements within the proposal, whatever it happens to end up looking like. But we've also got two state elections in the middle of this too, Kerry, the New South Wales election, the Victorian election. All of those things can come into play. So even though the authority has put out a guide, it's not even a plan yet. It's not even a draft plan. So it's a long way from being a firm legislative proposal. And I think we've got to walk slowly with the people that are affected on this and see if there's a range of options that will fit their particular stressed circumstance. There's some people that may be able to accept a 20% cut with no real economic disadvantage to their communities. In other areas, 20% could be enough to annihilate a particular town. So if there's a way and a mean to be able to overcome that, I think we've got to get down to that sort of micromanagement and not try and throw a blanket over the whole catchment.
The thing I don't understand about your committee, the committee that's been announced today with you as chair, is that you've got this whole process still to run by the independent authority, and yet there's going to be this parliamentary inquiry chaired by you running parallel to that, and you will actually finish your inquiry quite possibly before even the proposed plan comes out of the authority, let alone the final plan at the end of next year. So what is the logic?
Well, there may be room to extend the committee's deliberations as well into that. But essentially it's to provide a conduit from the people back to the parliamentary arena, and hopefully in a sense where there's not a political conflict. If this committee process can work, we could actually bring people from different political backgrounds together, engage with the community, look at the socio-economics of all of this, look at the various proposals as to whether there can be evaporative savings or there can be water introduced into the system, or